Hello friends, this is Dr. Ravi Ram, your EIS coach. Till the previous sessions, we have discussed about risks, enterprise risk management, varieties of risks, components, and trying to understand what are the risk methods. In today's session, we'll start with controls. Heading 1.6 of ICAI material, controls. What is a control? Control is nothing but policies, procedures, practices and organization structure that is designed to provide a reasonable assurance that the business objectives are achieved and undesired events are prevented or detected and corrected. These are the three methods. What is a control? The general English meaning of control is what? How to control things, how to take the ownership of the things, how to make sure to give a direction for various activities. That is control in regular English. But in business language, a control is nothing but policies, procedures and practices, and along with organizational structure. And these four: policies of an organization, procedures of an organization, practices within an organization, and a structure to achieve those policies, procedures and practices, all these four combined are called controls. Why? Because organization has to run with certain control. It is not an individual, right? It is not a proprietary based organization we are talking about. It is not. Even if with the proprietary also, there would be some policies, but designed by the proprietor. Whims and fancies of the proprietor, moods of the proprietor. But in case of professional organizations, the policies, procedures, practices and organizational structure, these four are really what we call as control. To achieve what? To provide reasonable assurance for what? Business objectives are achieved. Whatever we think, whatever we would like to achieve as a goal. So that's why these are called controls. And as a part of chartered accountancy and as a part of information technology, controls are very important. When you are trying to install any app or application, have you ever looked at the initial part? Do you accept the terms and conditions? Why those are there? Those are controls of a particular application. Why the controls are really important? Because control makes predictable outcome. Control makes predictable outcome. For what? For the business objectives what we are looking for. Policies, procedures, practices and organization structure to provide that business objectives are achieved. So simple way to look at it is that. And main objectives of information controls are for what? What is the objective of information control? Meaning there is a software system, there is an application. What is its main objective? Number one, safeguarding the assets. Number two, maintenance of data integrity. What does it mean? What is the data? How safe it is? And is the data accurate? That is integrity. Meaning, are we providing the data what user is asking for based on their role? And effectiveness in achieving the organizational objectives and efficient consumption of resources. So all these four are typically the main objectives of any information control. So in your notebook or in your textbook in front of you, if it is a hard copy, try to underline this. What are the main objectives of information controls? Safeguarding assets, basically data and other related stuff. Maintenance of data integrity, meaning correctness of the data. Effectiveness in achieving organizational objectives. For example, we have IRCTC as an information system. What is its objective? To provide accurate train tickets. That is organizational objective. If the information system is not providing that, what is the use of it? Hence, there must be controls to reach the organizational objective, to achieve the organizational objective. And of course, efficient consumption of resources. For example, currently if IRCTC has 5 servers to handle maybe 100 crore population, and all the 5 servers should be efficiently used. So that's why they include practice like practices, policies, procedures, programs, techniques, technologies, guidelines, whatnot. These are all part of controls. Okay. In organization, just as an example, purchase to pay. Instead of reading all this, what happens in the process? Purchase to pay process. Purchases, whatever purchases are there would be a requisition. So let us say I want to buy 100 laptops for my organization. So purchase requisition will be written and purchase order will be generated. Purchase order will be inputted. Purchase order is finally there. A, that is, let us say it is process A. And then from purchase order, vendor will be getting the purchase order and then goods receipt will come. Input that receipt information to system would be there. Then vendor sends an invoice also, and that invoice has to be put inside. And reconciliation, if any other previous pending payments and all that also should be reconciled, and that should be done through accounts payable. How much money we should pay to them, to vendors. Accounts payable works with payment systems. Vendor invoice payment and all that will be done. So this is a process. What is the organizational objective or goal here? By using this process, purchases should happen and payment also should be done. That's why it is called, the system or this particular process is called purchase to pay. We purchase and we pay. So these are 4 varieties of different steps within that process. So can we have a manual process, manual control of the system? Yes. Can we have an automated control of the system? Not totally. We can have some partial automation, some full automation, some manual controls. So it's typically manual, varieties of controls, manual controls, automated controls or semi-automated controls. In the notebook, open the notebook and write this. What are the varieties of controls? Manual controls, meaning manually verifying the goods. And quantity, price and all that. The step A till C. We can verify manually the blue things. Automated control, D, E, F can be automated automatically. It can be and using a software system. That's not a problem. E also, input recommend, receipt, invoice input and all that would be definitely automated. Semi-automated, verification of goods report, that is automated, but with PO could be automated, but vendor invoice matching could be done manually. So that vendor invoice matching, whether the G, the reconciliation is happening or not, this can be semi-automated. So 3 varieties of controls: manual control, automated control, semi-automated control. What do you mean by controls? The system, whether we are using any software, whether you are using pure manual, whether you are using mix of those. And that is a policy, that is a procedure. So that's how controls can be understood. Okay. So as an example, purchase to pay is given. Like that, any process, any flow, we can think about controls, and we are going to do that in little later. This entire topic deals with that. Okay. I think just now we have seen what are controls. There are 3 varieties: preventive controls, detected controls, or corrected or uncorrected controls. So these 3 varieties are there, and we have to prevent some of the undesired events. Undesired events. What do you mean by undesired events? Threats. Undesired events are nothing but threats. Undesired events. So that's why we have to prevent those. The control should help. Control should help us in preventing those, or detecting those, or correcting those. So this is how we can use the control system. Three varieties also we have mentioned and we have read here: manual, semi-automated, totally automated. We have reviewed this diagram as well. Okay, so moving on to importance of IT controls. Why information technology controls are really important? What is the real use of it? So a statement of the desired result or purpose to be achieved by implementing control procedures within the IT activity. Don't totally by heart all this, just to understand what is the importance of IT control, to make sure information technology is delivering its value according to the organizational objective. Okay, so IT controls perform dual role. One, they enable enterprise to achieve the objectives, and of course they enable the enterprise to achieve objectives, and they help in mitigating risks. Both two objectives or two roles IT controls, information technology controls, perform. This can be a short answer question. When they ask about short answer questions like 1 mark or 2 marks, ICAI expects the exact meaning of what is explained in the book. So we have to note it down. We have to prepare accordingly. So what are the dual roles that IT controls perform? They enable the organization to achieve the objectives, and they help the mitigation of risks. What is mitigation? Whether we manage it, whether we avoid it, whether we eliminate it, whether we ignore it, that's all mitigation. Okay. So there are some control costs. There definitely many issues are there. Some issues are there where we can we may be missing some of the important cost related aspects. It may be very costly, expensive. Any control that mitigates or detects fraud or cyber attacks enhances the organization's resiliency. Resiliency means ability to come back from failure. So organization can come back. Let us say a cyber attack happened. So we have a proper control and we have a proper business and continuity plan. That means how soon we can come back to the business. Let us say server is hacked. So before the server gets corrected, we may have, if we have a standby server, meaning a backup server, definitely our organization's resiliency is high, so that it helps the organization to uncover the risks and manage its impact. It is a result of a strong system of internal controls. Resiliency means. So this can be a new word for you. So please write it down in your notebook. Underline it and also write it down. Resiliency. What is resiliency? It is the ability to come back from a failure of a system. That is resiliency. Okay. And how to apply controls? There are varieties of controls, different options. Risk management strategy. It's a part of risk management strategy. The way banking is done is in a nationalized bank is a traditional way with a rigid organization structure of managers at different levels and all that. Whereas some of the private sector organization structure is around customers and focused on relationship banking. In government banks, mostly a bank has managers to manage the bank operations. But in private banks, to manage the customers, they have structure. This is a policy, some policies of an organization. Private sector operates in certain ways, public sector operates in certain ways. So that is an example that may vary from company to company, organization to organization, depending on its structure. A common classification, there are two varieties: general controls, application controls. So again, note it down in your book. Two varieties of controls: classification, general controls and application controls. So general controls are at a macro level, which are for all applications and data resources at a high level. Macro means big. Remember that, right? Macro financial, macroeconomic, microeconomic. What is macro? Macro means big for entire organization and other applications at a high level. Applications are micro level, specific to the application software such as payroll, accounts payable, billing, etc. Okay, so we'll go through one by one. what are the general controls. So two varieties of controls. I hope you have written down in your notebook. You are following this by going through the material what we are discussing in the session along with noting down. Then only you can refer to that while you are preparing. Okay. Don't think that just by attending this you are preparing. This is all pure learning from the initial classroom type setup. You are listening to the concepts, you are trying to digest the concepts, trying to understand the concepts, trying to note down the highlight of the concepts. But you have to prepare, you have to go through this material again, sit and read this material, try to write down the your own points also, along with the points what you are writing in the class. So this is how we have to work on. What is the first variety of controls? ITGC, Information Technology General Controls. This can be a question again. Explain the organizational controls. And what are the two varieties of controls? Or they may say, apply the controls to an organization and try to note down what are the controls. The first one, Information Technology General Controls. These are called infrastructure controls. Note it down. What is infrastructure? For different layers of IT environment, like all systems and components, processes, data, all those things. That means at a high level, general controls are nothing but policies and procedures for infrastructure. So that's why I have mentioned the IT general controls are macro level infrastructure controls. This is how we can remember that, macro level, which are nothing but at a high level. They apply to all systems, all databases, all programs, all organizational parts. So first one, there must be a solid information security policy. Solid information security policy. What does it mean? Always set of laws, set of rules. The security policy should have practices that regulate how assets including sensitive information are managed, protected and distributed. Who has the access, who should have the access, who should have the security clearance, how the data is backed up every day, which part of senior management has authorization. All those things are part of security policy. Every organization has information security policy when they are using information systems. First one. 2. Administration, access and authentication. I mentioned in the earlier discussion, access should vary from role to role depending on the position where we have. Manager may have certain type of access. The administrative staff may have certain type of access. Executive management, senior management like CEO, CFO should have certain other types of accesses. So access controls should be ensured only excuse me. Sorry. Only the authorized persons should have access to the system and the actions they can take. So it should be administered with appropriate policies and procedures. That is also the second point. Sorry. Administration, access and authentication. These are the three aspects: administration, access controls and authentication policies. Separation of key IT functions, which is nothing but segregation of duties. I think we mentioned that. This will come back again and again. Segregation of duties is very important in information technology or information solutions and controls. Management of systems acquisition and implementation. How to acquire the systems. For example, I am HDFC Bank. I would like to have an IT software, meaning a software application. I will not be developing that because my core business is what? My primary operation is what? Not the software development, right? My primary operation is banking. So I will engage a vendor like TCS or Infosys or CTS or Wipro or Cognizant and all this, one of these companies, and I will buy and acquire a systems acquisition from them. So which one has to be acquired? There must be a clear policy for that. What are the security items, functionality means how the system works. Sorry. In Union Bank, system may work in one way. In HDFC, it may work in another way. In ICICI, it may work in another way. According to our policies and procedures and security and functionality, we should acquire the system. So there must be an overview and management at the top should have it. That's why this is a general control, ITGC. It's a general control. So there must be a high-level security policy, administration, access and authentication. We should have SOD, segregation of duties, and then systems acquisition and implementation also. There must be management. Change management, which is nothing but from one current version to next version. How to change? Should we directly change it? Should we slowly parallelly change it? So varieties of policies should be there. So what are the changing needs as per the changes in technology environment, business processes? See, every year there may be new regulatory. What is regulation? New rule. Sorry, new law. Compliance requirements. What is compliance? Like I mentioned, what type of security policies? For example, have you ever observed while you are doing an internet, money-based transaction? Have you ever seen at the bottom of the screen? Applying 256-bit authentication, 128-bit encryption. Have you ever seen? End-to-end encrypted data. That is compliance requirement. That means legally we have to follow that. Otherwise, those are all the policies out of SOX. SOX compliance. Have you heard that? Yeah, in the previous session I mentioned. In US, there was a compliance system called SOX, Sarbanes-Oxley. And all the countries are following those guidelines now, so that compliance requirements are there. And changing needs of the users, like us. Sometime, this year we may like a static graphic application. Maybe next year we want a virtual reality application. Maybe after that augmented reality. After that we may like to have artificial intelligence. So while we are changing our applications in the company, the change management should be also a policy. Sorry, when to change, when not to change, what type of hardware should be changed, what type of software, what type of business process, all these things should be tested before implementation. So policies related to tested, that is called change management. Very important. Large organizations have separate change managers, just for your information. Like one of the organizations where I have worked earlier, Verizon is a telecommunication company. It's a US based telecommunication company. A lot of new technologies come there, new procedures come there almost every month. So how to manage the change, that is also part of policy. That is a general control. Okay, we cannot directly change according to the manager's wish. We have to follow organizational policy. What type of hardware should be changed? What type of new server should be changed? If we are going to a different cloud environment, there must be clear-cut testing. All those things should be part of it. Okay. And some of the other procedures, general controlling procedures, are backup, recovery, business continuity. Backup, how many backup servers should be there? People say, or at least at a technical side, Facebook has about 18 different locations as backup. Different varieties of backup, including 3 satellites. Google has its own satellites as backup. Every day it backs up the data to a satellite, so that any given time, even if some Google crashes, the data is recovered immediately. That is recovery. Business continuity, how to continue the business, how soon we need to get back if there is a problem. So these are also policies. Okay. So varieties of data centers are there. There is a company called Control C in Hyderabad. I don't know whether you have seen or not. The company's name is let me write it here so that you will visible. CNTC Control S. What is Control S in keyboard? Control S in keyboard, save. So our data is safe with them. That's what they want to. So all our organizational data, for example, Reliance has all its data as a backup with Control S as company. HDFC, ICICI, they have. So Control S, what does it do? It has lot of backup of many companies' data. In case of a calamity, in case of a hacking situation, in case of data loss, Control S will provide backup and recovery so that our business will run as usual. So very important as a policy. So proper development and implementation of application software, you can just read this. So always there must be some process how to develop the application software, what type of what type of processes should be used and all that. And then CIAT, again, confidentiality, integrity and availability. Definitely these three are important. That is also control, general control. Incident response and management. If there is a problem, who has to be contacted first? Is it the help desk? Is it so there must be some process related to this. Monitoring of applications and supporting servers. I think this is general discussion. Value add services, sometimes service level agreements. For example, if we have taken a telecommunication package, there will be an SLA. We will sign with them and the company also signs with us. In case of an issue within so and so time, it has to be reviewed. Some policies will be there. So that is all service level agreements. And user training, sometimes there may be some training operations that are required for the users. So user manual or online user manuals, whether we have there or not, this is all user training and control. So these are all high level. If you look at macro level, ITGC, information technology, general controls. We may not be able to by heart everything and not required, but bullet points at a high level we should remember. What are ITGC? So there may be a case study like this. Current has an information technology organization. They would like to verify their controls from an information technology standpoint, explain and suggest Current what type of general controls they have to implement. So maybe out of, let us say if it is 4 marks question, maybe 6 or 8 controls we can write. So like that our preparation has to be, okay. So varieties of general controls. Then moving on, application controls. Applications are nothing but what? Apps we use generally. Apps are nothing but interface between the user and business function. Swiggy, for example. What is that? We are customers, users, or hotels. They are also users, and business functions. What is the business function there? Delivery of food. So how Swiggy is working as an app? It is an interface between the user. User can be us as the consumer, or user can be the hotel, and the business function is delivery. Like that applications are developed. If you take any application, ticket booking application for example, or banking applications, or insurance applications, or online payment applications, always all applications are what? Interfaces between user and the business function. We should understand that. So user may vary. User sometimes may be end consumer, user may be an intermediary, user may be a broker in between, user may be a server in between, but business functions vary. In case of ticketing application, what is the business function? To provide tickets without any flaw. In case of banking applications, to perform the banking operations, that is business function. So application controls are controls which are implemented in application to prevent or detect and correct errors. That is at an individual application level only. General controls are macro controls. Application controls are micro controls on programs or applications. What is an application? A combination of programs, software programs, and network connections, database storage. This is how an application is made. Okay, so these controls should be inbuilt in the application software only. Like in banking, for example, application software ensures only transactions of the day are accepted by the system. Sometimes, can we do a transaction of 15 days back in the system? In a written manual communication, we can just flip the ledger and note down a transaction with a back date. But in bank, in an online system, almost it is impossible. We will never have authorization to do a backdated transaction. That is a control, my friends. We cannot manipulate the data. We cannot corrupt the data. We cannot, try to do a transaction or note down a transaction on the previous date, retrospective date. Withdrawals are not allowed beyond limits. Let us say we have 20,000 in the account and we have given a check for 25,000. The system should check it, that whether it is valid withdrawal or not. What is that? That is a control within the banking application perspective. Okay, so like that, some examples of application controls. More and more application controls we will look into in later chapters. So there must be always some examples are there. Data edits, whether the data is coming correctly or not, permissible fields people are editing or not. So we cannot edit our date of birth every time. Think about it. We cannot edit our date of birth every time. Once we enter, that is permanent. We cannot edit the Aadhaar card or PAN card every time unless the system asks us. So data edit has to be on only few items. Separation of business functions like transaction, authorization and all that. So just as an example, these are totals, transaction logging or error reporting, exception reporting. Exception means something is done beyond all exceptions. Error reporting, some process has stopped in between, that is also reported like that. Okay, so that's why application controls are like this. These are the examples, few examples. Those are enough for us. Okay, so key indicators of effective IT controls. General theory, this is when it is effective. Okay, we should have these controls, but when we are implementing the controls, it should be effective. So the ability to execute and plan should support new products and services, then it is effective. Development projects are delivered on time, then policy is effective, control is effective, within budget. So basically all these points are ideal conditions. So when the controls will be effective, what are the key indicators? These are the indicators, meaning controls are working. Effective. Ability to allocate resources predictably. Server, for example, which server has to be used. There must be prediction. Prediction means according to the plan it should work. It cannot have its own. So when the policy is clear, when the control is there, it should work according to the control. Consistent availability and reliability, again CIA, confidentiality, availability and all that. Clear communication to management, ability to protect, these things should be a part of it. Efficient use of customer support. Like I said, these are all ideal conditions how organization can measure whether the IT controls are working or not. So a question may be asked in the exam. Okay, XYZ company is implementing some controls. How, as an auditor or as a consultant, you can say controls are working? What are the indicators for effective controls? Then these things may come. Okay, very self-explanatory. Any questions there? Maybe you can shoot in the common group so that I will respond back. Now, we'll enter into the internal control as per standards in auditing. Auditing as a procedure has certain standards. There must be some internal controls. What is internal control? There is a auditing standard 315. It defines system of internal controls as process designed, implemented and maintained by those charged with the governance, management and other personnel, that means top management, to provide reasonable assurance that achievement of entities' objectives are regarding reliability of financial reporting, effectiveness and efficiency of operations, safeguarding of assets, same things again and again and come. So the top management should have internal controls. When we say internal, always those are management controls. We have already discussed about it. Because internal controls in terms of information technology, who decides those? Who designs those? Top management. So again, an internal control system, this effectiveness and efficiency will haunt us. Better to remember that, note down anywhere. In your notebook. Internal control system should facilitate effective and efficiency, reliability, compliance with applicable laws and regulations, safeguarding the assets of the entity. These four, I think this is the fifth time we are looking at it. Okay, so How does it achieve the 5 components of any internal control? How components of internal control really work? The first thing is, there are 5 components. First of all, we need to understand components of internal control. Number 1, control environment. What is control environment? Again, it is a set of standards, procedures, processes and structures that provide the basis, this is the key, that the policy should provide what? Basis for carrying out internal control across the organization. So board of directors, senior management, they will establish the tone at the top. TCS may have certain type of controls. Infosys may have certain type of internal controls regarding the importance of internal control, standards of conduct, control and all that will be different company to company. So management enforces the expectations. Okay, so this is all the general explanation of the same. And who has that? Internal control environment is established. That is the organizational environment wherever the controls are being applied. And who designs those controls? Top management, board of directors and senior management, they establish that. Okay. Second, why are we discussing this? There are 5 components of any internal control. Note down in your notebook. 5 components of any internal control. 5 components of any internal control. 1. Control environment. 2. Risk assessment. What is a risk assessment? What is the risk assessment? So control environment is nothing but board of directors and management create the environment where internal controls are applied. Risk assessment is, it involves dynamic and iterative process for identifying and assessing the risks to achieve the objectives. Risks to the achievement of any of the objectives across the entity are considered to be risk tolerance, and we have to have risk planning, risk assessment, what are the risks and where the risks may happen. There must be a formal discussion, there must be a formal report. So that is called risk assessment. Who does that? Again, there the staff with the management specifications and objectives, they will conduct the risk assessment. That is a part of internal control. Second component. First component, overall environment, that is management, board of directors and policies and procedures and organization itself. 2. Risk assessment based on risk management, risk assessment. 3. Varieties of control activities. This is important. That's why I have bolded that. Control activities. Control activities. What are control activities of an organization? Control activities are related to the activities of actual control. The actions established through policies and procedures. So this should be part of organizational audits. Audit is an action on what? To control any of the financial or information technology based security breaches or policy breaches. So control activities are performed at all levels of the entity at various stages. All levels of entity and various stages within the business process. And technology environment also. So technology audit also happens. So what is the objective of our methods of controls? 3 varieties. I think we have seen that. Preventive or detective or corrective also, that is also added. But mostly preventive or detective. That is control activity. So broadly, control activities include elements that operate the transactions that are authorized, duties are segregated. Again, the same thing. What does control activity do? What does audit have? These are the things. So basically simple things here. First, design the control environment. Specify who are going to follow what processes. Conduct a risk assessment. Second point. 3. Do control activities, action. Okay. And 4. Information and communication. Report the same. What are all the reports because of the audit reports, error analysis, all those things. Management uses relevant and quality information, both internal and external sources, so that whether it is working or not, that is information. Communication is a continual process. Weekly reports, daily reports, dashboard reports, management information system reports, audit reports. 4. So step 1, establish the control environment. Step 2, do the risk assessment components. Step 3, control activities. Do an action, meaning conduct an audit, conduct the control environmental activities. 4, gather the information and communicate to management. 5, continuously monitor the controls, because it's an ongoing cyclical process. Okay, on the face of this, if you really look at this, this seems to be highly theoretical. But if you break down this into bullet points and understand, very easy. So according to standard audit standard 315, internal controls have 5 components. Important. It may be a very important question. And I think one of the previous examinations it was given as a case study. And case study, don't worry. They give a case. We need to understand what is the objective of the case. If they are talking about internal controls and explain the components, we have to represent these 5. Control environment, risk assessment, control activities, reporting, meaning information and communication, and finally continuously monitoring the controls. If any evaluation should be done, any modification should be done, continuously monitor it. Got it? So these are 5 components of internal control according to audit policies or audit standards. You may get the similar controlling examples in the auditing subject also, but these are mostly from information technology standpoint. Okay, 5 components. I hope we have spent reasonable time to make you understand that. Okay, 5 components. Write down in your notebook as bullet points like this. So 4th one, information technology and communication. 5th one, monitoring continuously controls. So this is a framework of auditing standards. According to auditing standards, 5 different components of internal control. Okay, good. Naturally, every controlling system has certain issues, limitations. Management may think cost of control is very high. Sometimes all the audits and all that the management may try to escape. Sometimes potential of human error is there. Circumvention of internal controls. People are intelligent, so that they will try to avoid internal control sometimes. And members may abuse the responsibility also, meaning even though they have to do something, they will try to abuse it, meaning they will use it for their personal gain. Probability is there. Of course, if management itself is manipulating, who can save the company? No one. But these are all limitations to internal controls. Why it is explained like this? Some of the organizations think that yes, we have a lot of internal controls, but internal controls should be continuously monitored. Otherwise, what may happen? These possible risks are problems. Okay? So diagrammatically I have mentioned the 5 components here also. I have spent a reasonable time because this is international standard. There is a standard called COSO, almost like our auditing standard, but this is international standard as a framework standard. So these 5 components are universal. I just want you to understand ICI is so global. Based on COSO's framework only, some of the auditing framework and activities are framed in India. That means it is global standard. Okay, I think we can move on. Limitations we have seen. We can just go through that limitation. Okay. Risks and controls for specific business processes is the next topic. Till now we are generically talking about things. So all these things later we will discuss. Yeah. So risks and controls for specific business processes. What is that? Every business process has certain risks and controls. So based on the scenario, the controls can be again reminded. Write down in your notebook varieties of controls. Preventive controls. Some controls are designed for prevention of a potential threat. Detective controls. During the system we can detect. Corrective controls. We can correct those things also based on the control model. So 3 varieties of controls in general. So preventive controls prevent the risks from actualizing, meaning before the risk happens. Detective controls detect the risks. Corrective controls facilitate the correction. Okay. So in case of computer systems, controls should be checked at 3 levels. There are 3 levels. 1, configuration. 2, masters. 3, transaction. You have to note it down in your notebook. What are the varieties of controls? 3 varieties of controls: preventive, detective or corrective. In your notebook, open the notebook. I think your notebook is open, right? So note down this bullet point. Types of controls: preventive, first bullet point; detective or corrective, the third one. But information systems, there are 3 varieties, 3 levels of controls, which is called, first one is configuration. We can check. Masters, we're going to talk about what is masters, and then transaction level. These are the 3 levels of controls. So in any system, any application, if we are trying to audit, we need to look at these 3 levels. For example, banking system. We'll give the examples like that in future, or maybe sales system, or maybe marketing system. What is configuration of that? What is the master data? What is the transaction data? What is the difference? We'll try to understand. We'll try to learn. Configuration is, first one is configuration. Configuration refers to the way the software system is set up. When you buy a cell phone or when you buy a laptop, what is the first thing we do? We configure things. That is a setup. It is a methodical process of defining options that are provided. When any software is installed, values for various parameters should be set up, configured as per policies and business processes. So purchase, sales, inventory, finance, like this must be configured. Configuration means the basic setup. It will define how software will function and what menu options are displayed. That is configuration. So can we have multiple date of births? No. So when we design the banking system, example wise, date of birth should not have a drop down box. Date of birth should have only one field. But maybe the city where we are from, is it possible that everyone in the world will have only one city? No. So configuration, the design of the system should have multiple city names in the drop down box, or at least multiple country names. So why it is designed like that? Because it is configured like that. It is configured like that. So examples, so mapping of accounts, control on parameters like customer type, vendor type, year-end process. For example, in eastern part of the world, or for that matter, in Indian perspective, as of now, year-end means financial year-end is from April to March. But most of the Western world, like US and UK and all that, it is January to December. So it is according to the country. Year-end process has to be once configured. It cannot change every time. So when we are doing an accounting software, if the accounting software is designed for India, it should be configured based on the year of that particular land. That's exactly how configuration should happen. Like user activation, deactivation. So let us say once you type three times wrong password, system has to be deactivated. That is configuration while someone is designing the system. So control, it is a control if you really understand. So information systems, in computer systems, controls will be there. Okay, should be checked at 3 levels. 1, configuration, masters, transaction. Okay, what is masters? It refers to the way various parameters are set up, and it is the how the software will process relevant transaction. So what is master? masters are set up first time during the installation, and these are changed whenever the business process are changed. That means not on a day to day. Once the setup is done, the data also has to be entered there. So vendor master, what should be the data in the vendor master? What should be the customer master? Basically the headlines of any application. Headlines means date of birth, location. So the data inside may change, not date of birth per se, but the location may change. For example, master data. You are a CA student. ICA has a student database. What can be a master data there? Your name doesn't change every day based on transaction. Your date of birth will not change. So date of birth is a master data once it is set up. Or the year what you are studying, or the attempt what you are trying. So it will change, but till it changes it is permanent. So it doesn't change every day. For example, you want to update or you want to book a new book in the business portal. Books, you want to buy a book from ICA portal. So your SRO number, does it change? No. So that is master data. The data generally which is not changed is called master data. So similarly, all applications may have their own. Employees, payroll for example, employee name, employee date of joining will not change. Or employee's parents or parents name will not change. So that is master data. So customer master may have credit limit on the customer. Every day the credit limit may not change. Meaning when we are let us say loan processing system, credit limit will not change every day. So like that. So examples like vendor master, what should be the case? These are all examples. This is creativity and understanding or imagination, because we never worked anywhere, we don't know. What may be employee master? Employee name, designation, salary. So you may ask me, sir, next year the employee may get promotion, so the designation may change. Yeah, until there is an authorized change, the designation remains constant. So once the authorization comes, there would be a person who is authorized to change the designation, maybe from HR, they will change the designation. So master data, to change the master data we require higher authority of access. You understand now? So vendor master, customer master, example wise, any master data should be changed only by high levels of security. Okay. So configuration, the first time when the system is configured, the basic details, the setup details. Master data, reasonably permanent data which is not changing based on our day-to-day transaction. Then it brings the transaction, the actual transactions, meaning let us say I want to book 5 books from ICI. The 5 is a transaction detail. 5 may be 4 tomorrow, or 3 maybe we can change the number. So transactions are being changed. Every transaction has its own data. For example, deposit amount in the bank system. Our date of birth is a master data. Let us say address is generally master. We don't change the address every time. So the amount what we are depositing, can it change or should it change every time? Last month I have deposited, let us say 10,000. This month I want to deposit 5,000. Why not? So that is called transactional data, transactions. So sales transactions, purchase transactions, these are all very temporary based on each attempt of the transaction. So that verification or control also should be there. So 3 levels of data application controls in terms of computers, 3 levels: configuration controls, master controls, transaction controls. Based on this, risks can be identified and controls can be designed. So how to design or how to understand levels of control for an application? Write it down. Application controls depend on 3 major components: configuration controls, master data controls or master controls, and then transaction controls. Okay. So if you understand that, as an example it is given here. varieties of applications. As an example, procure to pay or purchase to pay. So procuring one, let us say I want to acquire 10 desktops for my company. So what do I do? I will raise a purchase order. I think we just looked at that in the previous slides. What may be the risk in it? What may be the control in it? So as an example, we are talking about master's data in that. Nothing to by heart in this. Just to understand the how to read this, how to represent this. What may be the master data? Maybe supplier master file, maybe unauthorized change. Is it not a risk? Absolutely. How to control it, or what is the control objective? Only valid changes are made to supplier master file. So there must be a verification whether the authorization is only there with one person and valid changes are done or not. So as a part of audit, we have to verify the control objectives. What is control objective? To make sure whether system is working correctly or not, whether the the data that is entered in masters of that particular transaction, in this case basically procure to pay process, all the steps are followed or not. So identify the risks first, try to write down the controls. So this is how the real life works, real life auditing works. That's why these are all part of our audit systems. Okay, while you study your audit paper, lot of examples like this are clearly given. So this is only a glimpse of it. So don't try to by heart this, just try to understand enough. And they may ask a question, okay, propose how to understand the risks and controls of procure to pay. What happens in procure to pay? First understand the flow, business flow. What is business flow? Raise the purchase order, identify the vendor, send the purchase order to the vendor and get the invoice from the vendor, try to enter the invoice data to accounting system and then send the cash to or pay the to the payment happens to the vendor. What are the risks probable? These are some of the risks probable. Okay, so and that two risks probable here are designed as an example from master's data standpoint. There may be some transaction data also. What transactions, unauthorized requisitions may be there. Basically about authority or authorization are entered correctly into the system. Most of the tables what we see in this material as examples may have, first of all, step 1, understand the business process. Step 2, identify the risks. Step 3, try to write the control objective, meaning how to prevent the risk. For example, I'm not going to read all this. I'm not going to explain everything. You can go through each one and all. In masters, mostly related to master data. What is master data? Which is relatively permanent data. What is transaction data? Every transaction. So we need to imagine, we need to understand in every transaction of purchase to pay or procure to pay, what may happen. So invoice may change, the data may not be accurate, purchase order data may not be accurate, vendor master is vendor details are not updated well, accounts payable amounts may not be adjusted, other adjustments are not. So this is all understanding the process. So if any question is given, try to design the control objectives for a purchase order system. So step 1, try to understand, first of all try to understand the business process, how that happens. So that is the flow of the business process. Step 2, identify the risks. Step 3, try to write the control objectives. Don't worry that you have to write everything like this. And step 4, try to understand, try to think how configurations problems may be there, how masters problem may be there, how transactions may be there, 3 levels. That's why if you look at configuration, very few examples are given because we cannot. The system engineers, computer engineers actually do the configuration setting. But masters and transactions, we can do that. So different examples are given. First one is we just saw procure to pay. Second one, order to cash. Again, customer order fulfillment, delivery note, invoicing, collections, accounting. It's almost the same. So it is a set of business processes that involve receiving and fulfilling customer requests. It is a set of business processes that involve customers request for goods or services, mostly from an individual customer standpoint. Mostly the supply chain, this is what it is. Earlier it is procurement for the organization, but here it is customer, the orders fulfillment, meaning sales. If you really look at what is order to cash, it is sales. We get the orders and then we'll get the money also. We'll deliver the orders, we'll get the money. This is order to cash is nothing but sales. You can write it down also. Order to cash is sales. So what happens there? These are the steps. So step 1, understand the business process. Try to understand different steps of the business process. That we have to know. What happens in sales? What happens in procurement? We should know. Second, risks. Like I said again, configuration risks are very tough to mention here. Hence, they have given master risks. What are master risks? Customer master file is not maintained properly. Again, the same things. And the information is not accurate. Invalid changes are done. So, once you understand the pattern of questions here, pattern of risks here, similar controls are applicable to any system. But that should be based on the business process. So, procurement process is different. Sales process is different. This is sales process. And then in masters, what may happen? Some of the sales records are not correct, orders maybe not. So wherever the problem is, for example, orders may not have come correctly. Orders did not get entered correctly. Order fulfillment did not happen. Data got manipulated. All these are risks possible. How to avoid those? How to control those? Processed only within the approved customer credit limits, something like that. Within the prices, orders are cancellations are input accurately. These are not inputted accurately, and they should be inputted accurately. So active voice, passive voice, if you really look at. Sorry, so many things. This don't even worry about it. Don't get afraid because of this. This is just example. But you have to just go through once. On step 1, I want to repeat it again. Step 1 for any business process. To design the controls, how can we do? 1. Define the business process first. Steps. 2. Apply the business process to 3 angles. Configuration, masters, transactions. Then try to identify the risks in each one of those. Risks in configuration, controls of configuration. Risks in masters, controls of masters. Risks in transaction, controls of transaction. It is impossible to by heart or in general by heart and try to remember. No need for that. Logically we need to go through this okay. So in your preparation you should go through that. So that is the sales process. What about inventory process? Risks and controls. Accurately tracking and on-hand inventory levels for enterprise. So inventory cycle, different things to companies at different levels. For example, assemble and creating inventory, that is a time-based process for some of them. So 3 phases. 1. Ordering phase. 2. Purchasing or production phase. 3. Finished goods and delivery phase. So the ordering phase is raw material ordering. Inventory has to order. Production, work in progress, because production has to use the raw materials and work on it, and products are developed. And these products have to be delivered to the intended outcome people. So again, masters, what are the risks? So step 1, business, we have understood the flow. Step 2, we are applying some of the risks for masters. Again, invalid changes are made to master file. Invalid changes to input and processed. Invalid changes are not, changes to inventory management master file are not accurate. What can be controlled should be there, should be controlled, should be promptly processed, like that. Again, transactions, inventory prices, raw materials are received in a wrong way, those are not recorded, etc. etc. Very detailed, but you can go through that. That's the reason why I am brushing through this. It is mostly for your reading purposes. I am explaining the process, how to understand this. Okay. What happens in sales? What happens in procurement? I just mentioned those. Here, human or HR risks and controls. What happens in HR? What happens in HR? Typically the process is recruiting happens. Once the recruitment is complete, employees join into organization, that is called onboarding process, that is hiring. This is just your reading process, okay? You just go through this, how it happens, just theoretical, so that you understand what happens inside. And then naturally orientation about organization and career planning, which one has to done. That's how HR does it. And then career development, opportunities that are essential to keep the employee engaged with the company, so that how can they work, how can they get motivated, whether their goals are being performed or not. Termination, of course, that is also part of HR responsibility. So 4 stages of processes: recruitment, onboarding, meaning getting employees to onboard by fulfilling all the applications and forms and all that. Then giving some career planning and orientation. Career development, further progress to career like promotions and all that. And then if required, termination or moving on to some other projects. So risks and control objectives, we can think about configuration, we can think about masters, and some examples of configuration also given. Sometimes configuration is important in HR because employees who have left the company, if they have still the access badges, that is a risk for the company. Hence, we can configure once the employee is terminated, all the details have to be taken out, removed. System access should not be there. Masters, again, payroll master details. Terminate employees are not removed from payroll master. These are all risks possible. How to control? We need to have requirements to. The moment employee gets fired or resigns, all the details in the master files should be taken out. Their employee ID should be disabled. These are all master data, like that. If you look at, there is no transaction data that is given as an example only here. So HR, like that. Step 1, business process understanding. Step 2, for configuration and masters and transactions. In this case, transactions is not given, but transactions also can be understood. So 3 angles, how the risk is there, what type of control should be there. Same pattern, like that. Okay. And there is another organizational process called fixed assets process. So all the fixed assets of the enterprise are tracked for the purposes of financial accounting, preventive maintenance, and theft deterrence. Meaning, let us say there are 200 laptops in the organization and 10 servers. We need to have a tag for everything. We need to audit those. Financial accounting also should be part of it. So let us say there are the safety security deposits of let us say 10 crore rupees. What type of fixed assets are there with us? So they have to be tracked and fixed asset records should be there. Location should be there. So procuring an asset is step 1. Again, what are the processes? First step, procuring the asset. Then registering and adding an asset. So sometimes we have to register if it is a new asset. If it is addition to another existing asset, always try to add. Step 3, adjusting the asset. Total modifications, repairs and all that should be, how long the economic life of an asset would be and all that, by having depreciation and all that. And then transferring the assets if possible. From one department to other department, transfer subsidiaries, reporting entities may change. All the details have to be maintained as account. And depreciating the assets, sometimes it may be possible. So always those have to be, the value has to be correctly maintained, part of accounting process. Depreciation, is it not a line item in our accounts? So we need to have that. And disposing, sometimes we may have to dispose after a certain number of years. For example, every laptop in general in large organizations, after 7 years they dispose it. Some organizations dispose it after 5 years itself. So value of the asset will be 0, and how many assets got disposed and any value came out of that has to be maintained. So step 1, the process of fixed assets. Step 2, masters, what risks may be there. So invalid changes again. Fixed asset register is not maintained properly. Master data, system configurations, like all the depreciation details and all should be perfect. We cannot change the depreciation every year. Depreciation rate cannot change. It has to be permanent master, like that. System accesses to asset master file should be permanent, like that. What are transactions? Oh yeah, transaction risks. Fixed asset acquisitions are not accurately recorded. We bought some laptops, but we never entered those and we don't know where those are. Then it's a huge risk. And control objective, properly or accurately recorded. Like that you can go through. Disposals and transfers are not accurate. So how do we define these risks? Based on the process. Procurement, what are the risks? Registering, what are the risks? Adjusting the assets, any risks, like that. From masters, permanent data, reasonably permanent data, transactions, day to day. Meaning one person has changed from one department to other department. There's a day to day transaction data. Okay. So like that, any risks of that type we can think about. That is about fixed assets. And finally coming to our core, which is maintaining the general ledger, accounting work. So what happens in a general ledger process? I think we know what the process is. Financial transactions enter into the system, reviewing the transactions, approving the transaction, posting the transactions and financial reports. There may be some configuration risks, meaning unauthorized general entries can be passed, system functionality does not exist, interrelated balance sheets may be. This is all accounting terminology if you look at. So systems do not generate reports of all recurring and non-recurring journal entries. So we should know the general ledger process first. We know that, right? General ledger process, basic accounting process. And any configuration issues, just look at that. If you look at, lot of configuration issues are given. Like standard recurring period in general entries should be submitted from subsidiary ledger systems are not automated sometimes. So properly general entries are not configured. How to do that? Those are risks. Then masters. General ledger master file, standard chart of accounts is not prepared, example wise. Two master risks. Transaction risks, day to day. Balances are not reconciled, that's a possible risk. Interrelated balance sheets, income statements do not undergo automated reconciliation. At the end of the day, if the general ledger is not getting updated properly every day, reports are not tallied properly, then naturally those are all transaction risks, day-to-day risks. How to mitigate? Always have some, they should have some exception reports or reconciliation reports, like that. So you just read through this. It's not a I would say rocket science for you to understand. This is pretty procedural and also as an example. But from an examination standpoint, they may ask a question. Explain the risks and controls related to general ledger. So again, I would like to reiterate the process. Step 1, try to write the process first. What is the business process in general ledger process flow? Step 2, divide the risks into 3. Configuration risks, masters risks, transaction risks. Configuration risks, just try to understand how the setup is done. Any issues related to that. Masters risks, relatively permanent data. Transaction risks, day-to-day transactions, what may be the risks possible. So we require certain common sense and certain general knowledge about the process. Okay, so preparation wise, follow this process. First, understand the process flow. 2, divide the risks and controls into 3 areas. Again, I am reiterating: configuration, masters, transactions. We may not know all the things in hand already because we never worked in the organizations. So we need to prepare from that angle. Try to understand from that angle. Understand the process. Divide the risks into 3 areas. What may be the configuration risks? What may be the transaction risks? What may be the masters risks? And then what may be the transaction risks? That's how you can prepare this. Any questions related to that, you can definitely post it in the common WhatsApp group. I will respond back. Okay, so this is for your read only, and while you are reading it, you may have some questions. No hesitation there. Okay, so I explained how to understand the process of risks and controls. Very important methodology, you know it compared to many people. Otherwise, this may look like Greek and Latin. How to interpret this? How to read this? How to memorize this? Impossible, right? No need to memorize. Logically approach the understanding process. First, look at the application process. Number 2, divide the risks into 3 areas. Configuration, masters, transactions. I am reiterating again and again. Write this process in your book, at least at a high level. And then in your preparation, you should go to each one of these examples. What may happen in general ledger? What may happen in terms of fixed assets? What may happen in terms of in terms of HR? What may happen in terms of inventory cycle? What may happen in terms of sales? What may happen in terms of procurement? Like that. Okay, 5 or 6 examples in the book. Go through that. It will take reasonable time to go through that, and don't by heart those. Try to understand logically from the process I have mentioned, the methodology I have mentioned. Okay, so with that, I would like to put a stop for today. A lot of new topics in terms of risks and controls we have discussed and prepared today. So while studying, of course, you may have few questions. Don't hesitate to post it in the common group. We will respond back as soon as possible. Alright, prepare well, write down the notes while we are preparing along with the class notes we are preparing, so that will turn out to be your future reference material. In case of CHAPS material also, some pages are here and there, one page here, one page there, but doesn't matter. I have mentioned all of these processes if you look at. Okay, with that, I would like to stop today. Till we meet next time. Thank you. Bye.